Hi, Angela.
Hi.
Hey, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Sí.
I was trying to figure out how to get on here because I couldn't find the link or anything.
Oh, okay. You can always call me, if you have
Oh,
any
okay.
questions like that, for sure. ¿Cómo estás? How's everything going?
Muy bien. Muy bien.
Good. Have you had
Doing
your,
some practicing.
I'm sorry?
Doing some practicing.
Great, great. Tell me all about that.
It's going good. I actually connected with, I don't think my video is showing. Hold on.
It is not.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yes.
It's been a crazy day. Yeah, so I was able to connect with my girlfriend that I worked with down at Disney, who is she's half Cuban, half Puerto Rican.
Oh, nice.
And so I reached out to her to say hello, and then I told her, I said, yeah, I took a Spanish class and da 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 da. So yeah, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Did you
so
take your first class yet?
yeah, so Monday I had the first class, and it was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, did
Some of it I knew, some of it I was like, oh, okay, so that's what that word is.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah. So, and I was trying to see if because didn't you say there was a class today and Friday? Is that how it works? Or I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I was
No,
just
you're fine.
upload this video here. So yeah, this the purpose of today's practice session is really geared towards tutoring.
Okay.
So like the idea is with your class that you're in, if you have any additional questions, or you want some help doing the homework together or something like that, like I'm here to kind of coach you through that.
Oh.
And then on Friday, it's more of just kind of an open conversation between.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Of course, it all depends on who exactly shows up,
Yeah.
So if other people show up, and like we can always start practicing or whatever. This is just basically to get our students together, give you an opportunity to talk.
That's pretty cool.
And ask questions and get some extra practice. So
neat.
How can I help you today? You're the only one so far, so.
I know, I wasn't sure if I was going to be late, if I was going to be early.
Yeah, what are your big questions in terms of learning how to speak Spanish?
I think just for me, it's just getting the, how do I want to say, getting it down pat and finding little ways that I can remember it, where, because like with my best friend Yanila, I can talk to her, or I can, go through the study and just practice by memorization. Okay. But I think for me, the biggest thing is just trying to find little tricks to remember the different things. Yeah. I know it's hilarious with doing like the calendar and my numbers and all that kind of stuff. Those was a lot of memorization, but it was also because I would when I'm writing in my journal or something, I would actually write the, word in Spanish or something like that to kind of trigger my brain.
Okay.
So,
So perfect. That's actually a really good place to start. So you said calendar and number. So you're in the first level on lesson 6 or 7 you must have just done?
I think we just did 4 from the thing that I was looking at.
Okay, cool. So let me see here. This is a book that I wrote, and this is just 5, what's it called? 5 Easy Steps to Speak Spanish with Confidence. So this would be really good for you to get. I think we send it out through email.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I just got an email today with that, and I printed off a couple things on there.
Nice. So the first thing that I teach, I think actually the second step that I teach in this is all about building your vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
So languages are really complex.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a good game plan or a good study plan, you can get
Mm-hmm.
lost in the complexity, right? Because we've
Mm-hmm.
got vocabulary, we've got pronunciation, we've got, the different tenses, past, present,
Right.
future, the verb conjugations, nouns, adjectives, sentence structure.
Yeah.
You've got
See, the
all this stuff
conjugations
going
are what
on.
get me.
Yeah.
The conjugations are a little hard.
So when you're like, we're speaking English fluently. Fluency means that we're not thinking really about
Right.
what we're saying, right? We're
Right.
just, at least there's nothing impeding the conversation. We're thinking kind of generally what we're going to say, but what actually comes out of our mouths just
It's all
comes out,
subconscious.
right?
Yeah.
So to get there, like one of the first steps that I tell my students, that I've told all of my students for years and years and years, is focus on memorizing new vocabulary. So
Okay.
like the first thing that you should do, and you can even do this before Spanish class, like don't feel like you should wait until your Spanish class to open up the lesson and start looking at it.
Right.
So start by memorizing vocabulary.
Okay.
Break the whole entire language down by, it's like if you have a house that you're building out of bricks, it's one brick at a time.
Right.
Learning how to speak Spanish is no different, just one word at a time.
Right.
Because like I'll put it into context for you. So I would imagine, right, you've come into contact with someone that does not speak English very well.
Right.
Right? Like, but how do they communicate with just words? You don't need to say, I want a pizza. You can just say pizza.
Right. And
Like,
people get the gist.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna, like if I work at a restaurant and you walk in and all you say is pizza,
Pizza.
like,
Yeah.
I think this guy wants a pizza, right?
Right. Right.
Like it's instant, and that was like, so the correct thing would be to say, I want a pizza, like 4 words.
Right.
But you don't need like I'm the anti-grammarian. I do not like grammar because grammar just confuses you. It does
Right.
not
Right.
help you start speaking. It helps you perfect the language.
Uh-huh.
But there's a time and a place for it. So this is kind of a long way to say just start with words.
Right.
I like flashcards. When I went to college and studied Spanish, I mean, I had a box that was like this,
Oh, yeah.
this tall, and all it had was flashcards in it.
Yep.
Now, there is a right way to study, or I guess a better way to study with flashcards. So I'll kind of like talking about the way that people actually learn how to speak a language. So and I always say initially, just start with like 10 new words at a time. Try not to do more than 10 words at a time. So like go through today's lesson and write down any words that you don't understand on some flashcards.
Okay.
Write the Spanish word on one side and then the English word on the other side. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when you start studying them, you want to start by looking at the Spanish word and trying to understand what it means in English.
Okay.
Do you have kids by chance?
No.
No? So I've got a little 4-year-old son, and I remember it was just like yesterday, he was just starting to learn how to talk.
Oh, nice.
But before he could talk, he could understand me.
Right.
So that's actually the natural process when it comes to learning how to speak Spanish.
Makes sense.
And nobody thinks about it this way, but the first step is learning how to understand it.
That's
so
true.
That's why I say just start with 10 words. Look at the word, put them all in order. Look at the word in Spanish and say what it means in English. If you get it right, put it off to the side. If you get it wrong, put it in the back of the stack.
Yeah.
So keep, kind of.
Yeah, that's how I always did it when I was first taking Spanish. So.
Okay, yeah. And then after you get through the 10 words that you can say them without, and you want to get to the point where you're not even thinking about it, right? It's just like
rolls off the tongue. Yeah.
Mesa is table, table is mesa. It's not 2 different languages. It's just 2 different words. Like, how we have big and large. Like that's all this is. As big as large is grande is gigante, right? Like there's just extra words that are in your vocabulary, not even in the language. So when you can kind of cycle through those pretty easily, then you flip over. So you're looking at the English word, and then you're trying to say what it is in Spanish. And you should always do this out loud. Always
Okay.
say it out
Okay.
loud, okay?
Cool.
Because that combination of kind of reading, writing, listening,
Yeah.
speaking, this is everything that makes it really solidify.
Right.
Okay. So once you do that, like it actually becomes really easy and really fun after
Cool.
that. Okay. So that's the biggest thing. Just do that with all your words. Now you can do the same thing with, so you mentioned verb conjugations,
Yeah.
right? That's your challenge.
Yeah.
So there's one of a couple of ways that you could do that, right? And one of them would be to like take, I'm just using, these are sticky notes, not
Yeah.
flashcards, but imagine it's a flashcard.
Yeah.
Write like the individual verb. So like hablar is to talk,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So you write down yo hablo, and then on the back of it, you write I talk. And then you
Oh,
take another card and you write tú hablas,
smart.
and then you write on the back of it, you talk.
You talk.
And
Gotcha.
then ella habla, and then on the back of it, he, she talks, right?
Yeah.
You can do that individually, or like I would start doing it all on just like.
Yeah, I think that's what I did when I was first taking it is I would write the word, and then on the reverse side I would do, yo, to, that like that is how I did it. And I broke it down in the little tic tac or whatever the teacher showed me form. And so that's how I did that. But I think for me, my biggest thing is once I have what the word is memorized, then it's going to a lot easier for me, unless it's like,
Sure.
oh, what's the word where they add it, where it's like, oh, I'm trying to think of the word where they actually change it all together, where it's like po dear, and then they change it to
You're
something else. Or
you might be talking about like the verb ir, which means to go, and it's completely irregular when you conjugate it. You say
right.
go boy, like boy.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Ir, like completely different word.
Yeah.
Let me bring up I'm going to share a whiteboard with you here. Okay.
But yeah, like other than that, like as long as they know the word for the most part, I can kind of guesstimate like, okay, if I'm saying it in mine, obviously it's going to have an O or whatever, so.
All right. So I'm not much of an artist.
That's okay.
But you're totally about to find out. But so like a conversation is super crude, is just an exchange that an exchange of information that takes place between two people. Okay?
Right.
So where I'm going with this is when it comes to verb conjugations, because we don't really conjugate. I go, you go, we go, they go.
Right.
We're not changing go hardly at all, right?
Right.
Maybe in the third person, he goes, but this isn't a natural thing for us.
Right.
So as you'll see in your classes with us, we break down initially the verb conjugations just by the first two.
Right.
So this is the most I've ever used this feature.
That's okay. I get the gist.
The first two conjugations with hablar, right? The reason why I break it down this way is because this is the A, right?
Right.
So this is going to be your question, and then you're going to answer in the yo form.
Yep.
So again, also when you think about studying verb conjugations and the way we teach this, and I've never seen this taught anywhere else before, this kind of comes from like my background in music, oddly enough, and like thinking about like, different like church music, like if you've ever gone to church and the preacher sings one thing and then the choir
how it breaks up into the different. This
is a conversation. And I play drums a little bit, and like in jazz, it's all about these calls and responses.
Right.
So I kind of applied this concept to speaking Spanish.
That's a good idea. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. It's a conversation. So a conversation is typically a question and an answer, right?
Right.
So I'm going to do this, right? So conversations equal, I'm going to just to be consistent here, A, a question, B,
A response.
right, an answer, okay? So
Well,
when I break it down into a conversation like this,
mhm.
when you're studying verb conjugations, so when you studied it in school, they probably taught you either all 5 or 6 conjugations. If you studied European Spanish, you learned the vosotros form. If you studied Latin,
Oh, yeah.
you didn't learn it. But they typically teach you the entire verb chart all at once, right? Where they say,
Yeah.
you know, yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla, nosotros hablamos, vosotros habláis, or ellos hablan, right? And they
Right.
hit you with that from the first day of class.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
So don't learn it by the verb chart. Learn it by the conversation. And so when you
Okay.
first start studying your verbs, 90% of your conversations are probably just going to be like this. So let me see if I come back to my little tool here.
But yeah, I've noticed that over the years from doing my Spanish that it's been, if I don't know the word, then that's what's screwing me up, you know? And so there'll be certain words that I'll see it and I'll be like, well, I don't know what this word is. So I don't know how, if there's like in the middle, there's an added I or whatever, or if on the end, you know, it's, yeah,
So that comes with time. So yeah, like to your point, you want to start by studying the verb infinitive, right? So that, you know, hablar means to talk.
Right.
Okay. And then once you get past that, you know, it's all about then learning what these endings are.
Isn't it
So
AR, ER, IR? Right.
Yeah, this AR gets replaced by an O and this AR gets replaced by an AS, right?
Right.
But to start, honestly, nothing else matters at this point with your Spanish because you're not going to be getting into very detailed conversation with people. The vast majority of conversations are going to be somebody coming up to you and saying, hablas español? Like they're going to ask you a question in the you form, and then you're going to answer it. Sí, hablo español, or hablo un poquito.
Yeah.
Right? So make that the concentration of your verb.
So don't focus on the deep conversations, just the very basic, hello, how are you? I need to get from point A to point B type thing.
Initially, just focus on that. This yo hablo and the tú hablas. And just know that when you ask somebody a question, you're asking in the tú form, and then they're going to answer in the yo form, and then back and forth, right?
Okay. That's pretty simple.
From there, you start expanding on it, right? So when you get into the third person, the he or the she form, so now we've moved past the friendship phase with somebody, and we're starting to, you know, like think about this 90% of your conversations. You know, you meet somebody and they're going to ask you, baila salsa, do you dance salsa? Cocinas comida rica, do you cook delicious food?
Right.
You know, they're always, it's all back to that to form with the question, and you're answering it. Now, you've made friends with somebody, right? Now we're moving on to the third person, right? And this is like, just for simplified purposes, él habla, okay?
Right.
Now, the great news about this, so you're married, right? So guess what? I might say, ¿Tu esposo habla español? Does your husband speak Spanish? And it's the same answer. You're going to say, sí, él habla español. So now this is both A and B combined, right?
So you're just dropping off that last one. Instead of like where this is an AR verb, you're just dropping off the R.
Right.
Okay.
But try and think about it like you are dropping off the AR and then you're adding back an A.
Gotcha.
And just because as you continue to expand on your verb conjugations, that's going to help you. If you start thinking about it like you're just dropping off the R, it's not going to help you out a whole lot. But you know, so once you move past this 90% of your conversations and you get into, you know, talking about, you know, your husband, like guess what? there's not a whole lot else to learn, right? It's just
Right.
the él habla, you know, él habla español? Sí, él habla español. The question is the answer.
Yeah. Okay,
And like,
that makes sense.
that right there will accelerate your fluency so fast in like
Yeah.
speaking Spanish. If you can just learn that, I mean, you're speaking Spanish. That
Right.
is conversational. Like I just taught you how to speak Spanish in 5 minutes. Honestly, that's
Yeah.
that's
I mean, it's hilarious because I was telling my husband last night over dinner, I said, it's ironic how there's certain words in here that I didn't even learn. And I got all the way up until almost like intermediate Spanish in college. And then there's other things that I'm like, either I learned it wrong or, you know what I mean? And I'm like, or I took the scenic route around to get to the word, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I really wish it weren't that way, and I wouldn't be in business. I would have done something else with
Yeah.
but this is the way it is. And I started teaching Spanish in 2005, right when I got back from living in Argentina.
Nice.
And I kept studying Spanish, and one of my professors pulled me aside one day and said, hey, like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're crushing it and you're like screwing up the curve because everybody else is like failing miserably, but you're like making 100% on every single test.
Right.
So can you start tutoring people? And so that's, you know,
Nice.
the first thing, I probably tutored 50 students at my college that
Wow.
semester. And like I was able to get everybody a 2-letter increase first with that really simple tip about the flashcards, right? As soon as I taught people to do that, and that happened to me in I was my first Spanish class. Well, not my first one because I had taken Spanish in high school and it was just a joke.
Yeah, that's what I hear a lot. Thankfully, I was homeschooled, so I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. And then I moved to Spain, like when I was 18, I really wanted to learn how to speak
That's cool.
Spanish. Not so nice. It was terrible because I was in an intensive immersion program. My teacher didn't speak English and I did not speak a word. You know, my 2 years of high school Spanish taught me how to say cerveza and some really bad words. Like that was it.
You're
and
like, well,
so,
this is fun.
Yeah, and like baño, and they don't even say baño in Spain; they say servicio. So like I was completely.
Oh, geez. So you were like really a fish out of water.
Yeah, and so but I came back, and then I started taking Spanish classes at CU Boulder, University of Colorado, here in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And I actually started getting it. But even then, initially, it was still hard for me because it was moving really fast.
Yeah.
The teacher made it all about the grammar and these conjugations, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't, so I kind of I realized that, and I'm like, man, if this is overwhelming, I'm just going to start looking at words. I'm just going to start memorizing words. And I took it one word at a time, and next thing you know, I started getting 100s on the test. Like she actually stopped class, like after one of like our midterm exam or something.
Right.
And I'm in a big room with like 50 people in it, and she actually said, hey, everybody, I want you to turn your heads and look at David. And I'm like,
you're like, okay.
She said, in my 20 years of teaching Spanish, I've never had somebody get a 100 on one of my tests, but he just did it.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, wow, like I got proud, but I was like embarrassed at first. But just because I shifted the focus from learning the grammar and put it on just learning words. With words, you can start to communicate. Yeah. With just a single word.
Yeah. Well, I think with my friend Neela, since she speaks it, and like her parents, for the most part, when they're at home, they speak Spanish. Yeah. And so like she'd be on the phone call with them and she'd be speaking in Spanish. Yeah. And of course me, it was hilarious because when we were working at Disney, I'd go, oh, tell your mom I said hola, like that, try to be cute. And she'd be like, oh, like, Angela and all this, I mean, it was hilarious. And so every so often when she'd be talking to him, I'd be like, oh, hola, ¿cómo estás? And that'd be the extent of my conversation with her parents. And when I was taking Spanish again for the second time to kind of brush up so I could hopefully take more classes, it was like right after we got married, right before we had gotten married, I'd be learning some stuff. And so I would send a message to Neela and I'd say, hey, got a question. And I'd be sending her stuff. She's like, well, you can say it that way. However, she's like, she goes, most schools in America teach you the proper way to say it, but it's more like learning something that they talked in the 50s, saying certain phrases and certain words that you would have heard back in 1950 here, and now people are using slang, and so it's like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's weird.
Another thing that happens too is Spanish is they teach the European Spanish from Spain, and then you start talking to someone from Mexico, and you're like, that's not.
Yeah, and they look at you like you got 3 heads.
Well, let's put this into practice. I want to give you real practice.
Cool.
So this is another book that I've published.
Oh, nice.
It's called Let's Start Talking, a bilingual book for English and Spanish students. You can get it on Amazon.com. I think it's only
I wonder if that's the one that I just picked up, because I saw something on the website. Okay. And I was like, oh, well, I'll go ahead and just get it real quick. Nice. So I wonder if that's the one that I purchased.
Yeah, maybe. This is our best-selling book. It's got like over 500 conversation starters.
Wow.
And it's got it side by side.
Oh, nice. I like that.
On one side, it'll have English, and then on the next side, it has Spanish.
I like that. That's cool.
Some little modifications, like here we're talking about American restaurants in English.
Right.
Mexican restaurants in Spanish, but for the most part, it's word for word the same.
Nice.
And then it kind of goes in order, starting from like really simple to gradually, starts throwing in more complicated questions. So, vamos a practicar. I'm just going to start asking you some questions. Okay. Ángela, ¿qué te gusta hacer para divertirte?
Okay, I'm trying to make sure I heard you right. Te gusta hacer, what was it?
Para divertirte. And you can always say like, no entiendo, or ¿qué significa?
Yeah, ¿qué significa para
divertirte? So that would be to have fun. Divertirte means to have fun.
Huh.
So I'm asking you, what do you like to do to have fun?
Okay. I've never heard that one before.
¿Qué te gusta hacer? And it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
¿Qué te gusta hacer para divertirte, Ángela?
Okay. So how do you say the word again? Para
divertirte?
Sorry.
No. Let's see here. Let's go back here to my whiteboard. Okay.
My headphones broke on me, so I can't like put those on so I can hear you.
No worries here. Okay. So the verb itself is divertirse, and it means to have.
I think I've heard that. Yeah.
So the question I'm asking you here is ¿qué te gusta hacer? And that's really all I need to ask. Para divertirte.
Divertirte? Is that how you pronounce that? Divertirte?
Divertirte.
Divertirte,
right?
Divertirte.
So again,
that's hard to say.
This is our A, right? The question.
Right.
And then the B, so just understanding the relationship here.
Right.
So the verb gustar is a little irregular.
Uh-huh.
So anytime you answer the question, ¿qué te gusta? You're going to answer me gusta.
Me gusta, and then the whatever. Okay.
Right.
So, trying to think. I have to think about that one. Me gusta.
No, you're like, I left the house in a month. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what listening is.
Escuchar.
What is it?
Escuchar.
Oh, yeah, escuchar. Me gusta escuchar música y how would you say playing games? Like I'm playing computer games.
Me gusta jugar.
Okay. Los videojuegos. Okay. So, me gusta escuchar música y jugar los videojuegos.
Ajá, muy bien.
Okay. Cool.
Perfectísimo. Muy bien. Okay. So I've got another one for you. Ángela, ¿cuáles son? I want to do this other activity with you as well.
Okay.
So that's the other kind of fun thing about this, as I start getting off on little things. Okay, so you had a little divertirse. Okay, so you had a little trouble with this one.
Right.
So this is actually a really cool activity. This is the pronunciation. This is all it is. E-A-E-A.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here is I'm isolating the vowels. E-A-E-A.
Right.
Spanish is just all about those vowels, the 5 vowels. A-E-I-O-U. To learn how to speak Spanish, all you have to do is learn those 5 sounds. A-E-I-O-U. Now, we've got like incredibly long words. Sometimes this is the one on, this is the one that
Ananahara.
because this is something you have to teach for like practically in the very first lesson, but it's like this super long like this.
Yeah.
It's not natural for our English mouths.
Yeah, and it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
not for us, right?
No.
So if you ever have trouble pronouncing something, just, break down the vowels. Okay, so we'll start with this first one that you're having trouble with. Divertirse, okay?
Divertirse.
That's perfect, actually. But to make it even easier, I'm going to pretend like you're still struggling with it. You just start working with the vowels. E-A-E-A.
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 Because that's the primary sound that you're going to be producing with your mouth.
Gotcha.
So you have to tell your mouth what to do, because our English mouths don't like to move that way.
Yeah.
Take it slow and focus on those vowels. Then you start, so we'll just do it one more time. E-A-E-A.
E-A-E-A.
All right, now you start breaking it down.
Mm-hmm.
The word divertirse.
Divertirse.
And you keep doing that till you can speed it up. Divertirse. Yep.
Okay, cool.
See how that works?
Yeah, see, I think I only learned that once, and then we kind of just like skimmed over it. Because we were learning about
well, your college classes are not geared towards speaking Spanish. You are not. College does not teach people how to speak Spanish. It teaches people Spanish. It teaches you the grammar and the rules. It does not teach you how to actually speak Spanish. It can't. To speak Spanish, you have to do what we're doing, which is speak. you have to. In most college classes, like my first college class had 50 students in it. You can't get 50 people to talk at the same time. So they teach, the written part, but they don't teach you the spoken part.
Well, because when learning this one here, I distinctly remember us learning like going to the beach. So it learned like you know, what the beach is, and it learned about all the different things and da da da. But it was so short and so condensed that like 90% of that I don't remember.
Of course you don't. Why would you?
Yeah.
It wasn't teaching you like a practical application where you're speaking.
Right.
All
Like
right, so then,
cougar is literally the only word that I remember out of that entire thing. I'm like, oh, I know what that word is.
yeah. So then, like, let's take it with a word like anaranjado, you know? So you just, again, you break it down by the vowels.
Uh-huh.
O.
Cool.
O. That's
Right.
all this word is.
Yeah.
Now you break it, you know, now you come back here. Oops, what's happening here?
Maybe.
I don't know why it won't let me. There we go. Now you break it down by the sounds. Na, ran, ha, do. So you go through and just do the vowels. O.
Yeah.
Get your mouth used to making it, because so like here's another thing. I don't know if you can see my mouth when I make the vowel sounds here. So we have a, e, o,
and oo.
Oops. All right. So if you can just look at my mouth, a, e, o, u. So do you see the way I'm changing the shape of my mouth for every single one of these vowels? That's what's happening. Your mouth, because these sound patterns don't exist in English the way they do in Spanish, you have to train your mouth to move that way. So when you just break it down by the vowels, you teach your mouth to move the right way, and then you can start putting it together with the rest of the letters and the na ran ha do, na ran ha do, anaranjado.
That's pretty good. I like that. That makes it a lot easier.
I'm all about making it easy. Learning how to speak a new language should be a fun experience.
Right.
You know, to say that it's super easy, like it is, gosh, somebody was just explaining this to me, like the difference between simple and easy. It's not necessarily easy, but it is simple. Like just like how simple is this? A, E, O, U. That's
right.
That is
If it were easy, everybody be speaking Spanish.
Right. So it's actually simple if you simplify it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you got to work for it too at the same time.
Right. Right.
Nice. So how helpful was this for you today?
That actually was really good. I really like that because it helps me to really break it down versus, you know, trying to be like, okay, I just need to memorize this word, or, you know, just, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So, nice.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. But I mean, it's so funny because I look at some of these words in here, and I mean, like I said, the divertirse, I had seen it once before, but we never fully went over it. And granted, this was, let me see, it was at least 5 years ago, maybe 4.5. So, you know, trying to, one, remember that long ago, and then two, you know, if it was taught the wrong way, it's like, you know.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So, and I mean, some of these words I'm looking in here, because I think one of the emails I got from one of you guys has the book or something. So I'm looking at some of these and I'm having to like look them up, being like, what is this word?
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, cool.
But no, this was really good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, everybody needs a little extra help, and that's why I do this, because I wanna help you. Like I'm 100% dedicated to helping my students.
Oh yeah.
You know, take classes, but really learn how to start speaking the new language. It was not hard for me. It was not easy for me, rather. Like, I have a very unique asset as a Spanish teacher, and that's the fact that it is not my native language.
Right.
And that it was not easy for me.
Yeah.
I speak like a native now. I have I've got a college degree. Like, I know I don't need a book to teach it. Like what you just saw
Right.
me do there today, I do this all day, every day, right? And
Yeah.
I've been doing it for almost 20 years. So,
Yeah.
but because I went through the process and I know how your brain works, and I've gotten to the point where I know how a Spanish brain works, I'm able to kind of give you those little tips, just to say, hey, just do this. Don't make it that complicated. It's not.
Well, the thing that I also love is that Professor Pedro, here he said he was from Argentina, I think.
Venezuela.
Venezuela, yeah. I was gonna say that, but I was like, but no. But the thing that I liked is that the two teachers that I did have when I learned my Spanish, one of them was I really liked him. He did pretty well. But the second one, you could tell she comes from a she's not full Hispanic, but she comes from a Spanish background. So apparently either a mother or a father was Spanish. But the way she presents it is as if, she's trying to give you all the material, but she expects you to just catch on like somebody who is from Spain or from whatever. And it's like,
patience,
okay, it's going to take me a hot minute to figure this out.
Yeah, patience and empathy are a couple of big things. That's why I work with teachers like Pedro. Pedro's like the opposite of me. He was actually an English student with us.
Oh, that's funny.
He studied English with us for like a year, got up to an advanced level. I worked on a project previously with his wife. His wife is like a marketing consultant and helped me kind of initially design the website and stuff like that. And so Pedro came to us as a student. He had studied at a couple of other places, went through our program, loved it, really got better with his conversational skills.
Right.
And about a year into it, I'm like, man, I can't, I was teaching all the Spanish classes at the time, and I was like, I wish I could, but I can't. And he started helping me with that. So
that's good. That's pretty cool.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear everything's going well for you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I really loved it because I felt like when he was bringing it across, I was able to really fully understand it and stuff. So it was kind of nice.
Sweet. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions I can help you with right now?
Not really. So far, I mean, I'm just getting into the gist of it all.
Well,
the other word that I thought was really interesting that I learned was the la carta, because I had seen it so many times when I went to a lot of these Spanish restaurants that I would go to, like the one which Professor Pedro thought it was hilarious whenever he asked me what my favorite restaurant was, and I told him it's called El Gordito. But before they changed the name because it was two families that owned it. It was originally called Gordita. Oh, what was it? Basically, they were saying it was supposed to be Gordita Guapa, I think was the name of it. And he thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And I was like, well, that's not the actual name. The actual name was like Gordita Guapo or something. And I was like, that's not how you're supposed to say that. Either one has to be an O or the other one has to be an A, And I was like, but anyway, so they changed the name of it now and it's El Gordito, but it's like a full Spanish restaurant, and I love it because I'll go in there, and I mean, every time I come in there, if it's somebody that's been there from the beginning, they'll go, oh, hello, ¿cómo estás? Because they know I'm going to speak to them in Spanish, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I love it.
Hilarious. But yeah, that was one word that I've seen on there so many times, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to assume that it means like appetizer or something, because it has all the normal like chips and salsa and whatever. But it was just funny because I'd never learned that word. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. But yeah, no, so far, I don't have any questions, but I mean, I'm really, really liking the layout of this. So
well, on Friday, if you can make it, it's going to be more just open conversation. So check it out. And that's like, here I was kind of teaching you things based off of what I saw, but Friday's much more just, we're going to pretty much just talk.
That's cool. Yeah. I penciled it in because, since I'm not working right now with not working at the school, I've been like you know, going on to like Twitch or something, and I've been doing like little videos and stuff like that, you know, just kind of buy my time.
Nice.
And so I kind of placed it out so that way I can make sure that I'm on there and all that kind of fun stuff. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so cool.
All right. Well,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
nos vemos pronto.
Hasta luego.